I have a hi-fi unit here, Sansui one, like a little shelf system. And I know there's something about it, I don't think it'll even eject. Yeah, it's true, it doesn't eject the tape. But it is a logic control one. The guy seemed to think that his kid may have done something to it to damage it. And I said, well, not necessarily, but I didn't even realise at the time it was a logic control deck. So if anything jams in one of these or belts slip or anything, that'll be enough to stop these working. And yeah, they normally, if they don't get back into the right position, they won't let you open the door. But you never know, it might be something they did to it. Not sure if it's meant to have any other issues. I can hear the motor running in that, which is possibly a sign making that much noise that the belt's not actually on it. It's not that bad, but it could be an indication of that. Looks like the tuner display is coming up. I'll just give it a quick check for DC on the outputs. And we can at least hook it up and see. See if we've got audio and stuff out of it. It's probably just a tape deck issue. They were quite a good unit, these, from memory. I haven't seen one of these in quite a while, but they did sell quite a few of these type of systems. Not sure when it'll be from, maybe mid-90s, maybe a bit earlier. Probably is a bit earlier than mid-90s. I think they're getting into the plasticky stuff by then, but it's not old. I guess it is getting old now, but working. One channel doesn't seem to be there. It's there, but not very well. But we're not fully tuned into anything or anything. It's just got auxiliary inputs or anything. Tape, oh yeah, tape to CD. I might just plug a CD player into it just to check without FM radio or any of that. Tape, play, to CD, that's it. And phono input, of course, because there is a record player to go with this thing. Yeah, one channel's not good. Oh, that's right, he did say, I think he did say one channel was low and distorted, so looks like we just confirmed that. I do remember him saying that now. So this probably isn't going to be the most fun to work on. You can take the top off, and then I don't think it gives you much access, although this one I think you can get the bottom off as well, which is good. Have a quick look and see what the amp is actually made out of. Probably an SDK chip or something on this heatsink, and sure enough, SDK 4141. So we may have to do a little bit of fault finding there. Could well be the signal feeding into it. And yeah, I can see the tape deck, lots of dust in there. Looks like we can get the bottom cover off. And can probably at least see if the tape deck's doing anything, or whether we've just got a spinning motor with no build on it or something. Yeah, so we can get underneath this. And where is our motor? Oh, everything's hidden under plastic here. But that's what turns the kind of main big gear here. That's why it's probably, that's the capstan. That, at least we can rotate that by hand, I guess, and get it in position. But yeah, the fact that's not turning the capstan at all and making quite a bit of noise is a likely sign that the belt's off. I can't see a belt anyway, so if we manually, I'm not sure which direction we're meant to go. Oh yeah, the deck's come back down. Oh, now the capstan's running. So it's not the belt. Still doesn't seem to want to eject. As the belt's not much good though, I can stop that easy as. Oops. Some weird noises on the end cover there. Oh, it's trying to open. What's going on here? I press the ejected, the door just, I think the door eject thing's still not only if I hold it for long enough it comes. I think the slow release maybe is a bit too slow. It kind of door holds up there, which it shouldn't. Though without the gravity at the moment probably doesn't help. Definitely relies on gravity. Yeah, the capstan's running now, but I bet if we put this, do I need to press a switch under here somewhere? Probably. There's the switches there. Let's play. Yeah, it's not fully rising up. We've got a reel making a lot of noise. The pinch roller hasn't pressed the captain. It says it's in play and it's going flat out. And don't be surprised when I hit stop, nothing much else here. It hasn't gone back to stop mode. It's still got the head in the same position. And yeah, the door doesn't want to shut. So I think we've definitely got a slippy belt in that. And yeah, we're back into stop mode again. So no, definitely nothing that his kid did. I can hear something. Sounds like a bloody coin in there somewhere. Or a washer loose or something. Oh, something fell out. I wonder if someone's done that trying to get the door open or something. Yeah, the eject now works. It's just here now that I've used it a bit, it's opening a bit more reliably. Yeah, but at least no one forced it too much. So it's probably just a bit stiff from not being used, so we're going to need a belt in there. Was it the only thing that did sound metallic? Look at that. Must just be a part of it. Now what I do need to do is test this amplifier. We'll probably have to feed a signal into it. I assume it comes up this connector here. So it's power amp on the board there. We've got another connector here. Oh no, this might, so that goes more towards, that's the volume control over here. It does have a tape record out. I mean, we could check that as well. That is a convenient spot. If I plug that CD back in, although will that simultaneously work, because that's on the same thing. I guess I could, or the other thing I can do is hook something to the tuner output, run it on tuner since it's the only thing that's going to operate at the moment, and we go to record output. This is prior to even the volume control, so it doesn't really cover much of the unit, so it's probably not going to tell us anything of much use. I've got FM hash there. That's about the same each channel, I think. So like I said, doesn't really tell us much. What we really want is to shove a sine wave into there and have a look on the oscilloscope and just see whether it comes out of that volume control clean, which it likely will, and then whether it comes out of the amp chip clean, which it likely won't. Well, it can't do regardless, because the amp's definitely got a distorted output out of it, whether it's the actual amp at fault or not. That's a very distorted signal. Okay, so I've currently unplugged the output from the volume control that goes into the amplifier so that I can actually turn the volume control up flat out, because the signal is quite high in here. The line level, I could even show that after, but then it's attenuated by the volume and also the balance control and stuff's across the volume. So unless you turn the volume control up flat out, you tend to get a very low signal. But this red and this blue wire are the signals. I'll have to show a different shot of the oscilloscope, and they're both clean. Now make sure you turn the volume control down first. I might just turn off the power. If we plug that into the amp, I don't really want to hear too much of that. I did notice there's obviously the speaker outputs. We can have a look at the waveforms on. And this other connector here, I did notice there's a distorted, one good channel and one distorted channel here. Okay, so I've got a signal there on the red, Oh, it was the, well, it was the blue and the red, wasn't it? All good. Big signal on the orange. Ah, there it is. So the yellow one is the other channel, it's just a lower signal. And basically one half of the waveform is missing, that's what that distortion sound is. Okay, signal on the red wire from the volume control. And on the blue wire. So that's going across that input to the amp board. Okay, so the orange wire off to the tone controls. That's with the signal attenuated a bit more, and then the yellow wire, that was the good channel. And if I can make a connection here. That's what our bad channel looks like. So this half of the bottom half of the waveform is basically cut off. Let's disconnect that. Oh, it disappears when I take the speaker off. Well, that's an interesting one. Okay, let's get rid of that channel anyway, so we can see this one. And as I turn it up, the upper half of the other waveform's basically distorting. You can see that way that slopes down. This side just gets completely cut off and bent back, so it's basically clipping, which is why you get that distortion sound. It's basically, instead of a nice wave, sine wave going, the actual tops of it are cut off, squared off, or in this case sort of triangulated off, I guess. But basically they don't go to the full extent that they should, like on the good channel here, and that's why you get that typical distorted sound. Oh, that's, I think because I've got the speaker disconnected, it's going higher than it should. There you've got the full sine wave. I guess we could extend that out a bit. So it's picking up a little bit of rubbish, but it's generally a good rounded off sine wave. And then if we go to the other channel, it's far from a rounded off signal there. As I turn it up, it starts off with 1/2 fairly reasonable, but there is a little bit of a kink. And then the other side is just completely knocked off. So that's typical what a distorted waveform looks like. It's distorted out of shape from a nice sine wave, which should be a mirror image each half, and with nice rounded tips. And you can see on that they're squared off or shut off before they get to the nice rounded tip part. Not the full thing there, and the other one's a bit misshapen as it goes in the second half of the waveform. When it rises all right, and then as it starts to fall again, it's getting cut out a bit. So that's the problem there. So it's most likely in this actual amp chip that the problem lies. So yeah, if the signal's playing up, if it's basically a clean signal coming from the volume control going in, then it's pretty much 100% the amp chips failed. They normally are what fails, because they got user access to them, or also could be abused through running too much volume for too long, overheating, but also just people can short the speaker terminals out and that sort of thing. So I'm not going to undo this. It's quite flimsy, this thing, with the covers off it. Undo these couple of screws, and probably the ones on the speaker thing, we should be able to lift this. Yeah, those lower ones are the power transformer. We should be able to get this amplifier board out. I think they slot off. Oh, this one's got, what have they done here? Clips on holding the heatsink on. What have they done? I thought they slid upwards, but they can't slide up and down. But bottom one has nothing on it. So maybe I've got to actually bend them a bit. No, Now if I push that to one side, yeah, I think I can just unclip it. Once I get one side out, we should be able to... Feels like that's still screwed in, but I took... Ah, this has got little plastic clips on it. It's one of those. Amazing how well they'll hold things together. Although it still doesn't seem to be moving. Come on, socket. Wow, that's really stuck in place. Just tight in the hole, I think. It shouldn't be that hard to get out of it. Oh, Jesus, just here. I think they've just really super jammed that into the hole on the back panel. We should have slid this sideways a bit and get that out of there, surely. Yeah, there we go. So I might even know, what are we tied to? We're connected to we've got the voltage selector switch, we've got the headphone socket, we've got the power transformer. I can sort of pull these plugs out. Maybe free it up a bit. Still quite a bit of dust in this, even though I have given this a quick clean over. Here's the main one holding that. I think we may need to remove the headphones. I think that just clips in there by the look of it. Must be a clip either side, I would guess. And if I sort of push on the socket, none of this wants to come apart. Doesn't help that they got everything in the way where I really don't want to take the front off. I can't see the clip. There we go. And there we go. Okay. Cool. Some dust on that too. If I do that and the voltage selector switch for the power transformer, just make a note of that. Goes with the purple wire towards the amp chip, because once I unscrew that it's going to look the same either way, and we don't want to make it look like it's on the wrong voltage and someone flicks that, because that's a good way to kill a power transformer or blow an amp chip and all that sort of thing. It does all sorts of damage if you turn it to 110 volts and plug it into 240. So I think that's enough length now, surely. It really doesn't want to go into the best spot to be soldered. I'll just have to pull these other, yeah, they're all different, these plugs, by the look of it. I don't think they're going to make a lot of difference, but it all helps. So now I can get to this. Now what I did find, according to my transistor substitution book, an STK4142 is the same as a 4141. And I do have a couple of those kicking around, so I think the easiest thing is just to substitute it. I'd be 95% sure that'll fix it. Guess while we're in here, I'll just have a quick check of this board for dry joints or anything. All looks pretty good. I guess one thing I should do is check the capacitors, because they can be another cause of amp chip failure. We'll just make sure we've got no voltage on these filter caps. 0, 0, both to protect me and the ESR meter, because we don't want to blow that up either. And they generally don't like going across energized capacitors. Potentially the voltage can damage them. Oh, turn it on then, short them out. And let's see, get that zeroed. A lot of electrodes there, so there's little ones. Nowhere to really sit the ESR meter, and the cables are tied up on it. Where are we? There, I believe. And one there. You have to get good at the art of working out where something on the top of the board is when you're underneath the board. which just comes with practice really. 1.7 or so, the opposite of that one is over here. Yeah, 1.5, 1.6. Then we have these larger ones, which are probably around 100 microfarad or something. 0.2. There's a little one right there. 1.1. I don't think that's got a matching. Did I check? There is a third capacitor on that side. I missed that one, I think. 1.8. Just double check I got that one. 1.4. Yeah, all good. That looks like one. Yeah, sure enough. 0.2 again. And the other two are that one there. That's 0.4. So, why not? 0.3, 0.4. Yeah, so it's maybe up a little high. Oh, that one's the same. So maybe those two are different value. Oh, it's a 47 microfarad. God, they always put the values somewhere where you can't read them. I can't see a thing yet. 47. We should put them right around the face of the thing. Would make it, and that's 100. So that's why those measure. I assume that's 100 as well. Yeah. That's why they measure a bit different. So I think we can say the caps are all fine. Which is usually the case, but this wire in there, best to check it before we put another amp chip in. Get this thing desoldered. Should be able to do them a couple of pins at a time, but no doubt because these are all bent on an angle, I'll have to give them a bit of a flick to get them completely loose. Because they're sort of bent back, touching the copper on one side. Don't know quite how they managed to get them all bent like that, but maybe I should try and soldering it from the other side, but it's a bit hard to get the solder sucker in and onto the solder and push the pins across at the same time. And then we have the fun part of looking at how much hassle it is to change the belt on the cassette player, and probably give that a bit of a service. Hopefully it's not too hard, but it does look a bit difficult to work on, but only because it's got plastic covers all over everything, so it might be nothing or it might be a pain. I've probably done one of these units in the past. I remember I've done some repairs to them, but I'm not sure if I've done the tape deck. And then I've got a turntable that goes with this system, which may need at least needs looking at, and that may need a build or something as well. So that's easy enough. Then it's just a matter of taking these screws out, and we should have ourselves a chip. So you take them out carefully, because some of those pins may still be soldered. They shouldn't be, but they could be. Just takes one little bit, straight out. Yeah, heatsink paste is pretty dried up on it, and I think it would have covered alright originally. Never good if I get any bare patches there. Okay. So yeah, got the 4142-2 to replace the 4141 Mark II. So hopefully these are equivalent like they say they are. But I'll give it a go since I've got one. Put a bit of paste over all this. Just got to get over all that metal area. And thick enough that when you put it on, it squeezes out a bit and covers all the little bits and pieces nicely. Just about do it. Get along the edge. over those little spots. Don't want too much, but don't want too little. And then the fun part with these is trying to get all the pins to line up with the holes, because they're always slightly out. They should really pack these things in some sort of foam or something for the pins so they don't get bent in transit. Would be nice, but they don't, unfortunately, so they're always bent all over the place. It takes a little bit of filament. It shouldn't take too long to get them in there. Oh, one of them's bending a bit. So where is the small screwdriver? That one I don't think has gone in properly. Sometimes it can be if you haven't unsoldered it properly on the board. I'm starting to think that might be the case. Is it? That seems to be alright. Why has one of them been a bit of a mongrel? I don't know why that's... it's just catching for some reason. Oh, careful, you've got to be careful you don't bend these things too much. They're all through. Might need to pull that particular pin a little bit just to get it through the same amount as the others. And where's our holes? There and there. But yeah, they're normally not too bad to do, but it'd be nice if they were sort of a bit straighter, those pins. And just went straight in. I guess they're never going to go just straight in, but yeah, we can see some of this paste squeezing out, so that's a good sign I've got enough of it. Make sure I get those screws nice and tight. And which pin was it? That second one, I think. Oh, that's not too bad. In fact, it's further through than some of the other ones, so as long as it makes contact is the main thing, but it's nice if you can get them all roughly the same. They tend to bend in and out as well as side to side, which is a bit annoying. But that looks pretty good. Now, of course, my solder's disappeared. Nothing ever stays still for 5 seconds. And just, of course, making sure we don't have any solder short in between the terminals or the pins. Got a nice bit of space on these ones, but you still got to make sure nothing's shorting out, because they can bridge if you're not careful, either from the desoldering process or resoldering them in. Just clean up any solder if there is any around the pads or anything. Sometimes you get a few bits from desoldering. Any joints that don't look 100% worth going over. It's all pretty good in this thing. Okay, so I can now try this out with its new amp chip. How did this board go upside down, wasn't it? Oh no, it is the right way up. I think it twists back that way. That must be it. Speaker terminal back through. I've got to clip these. Put the heatsink under. Yeah, it just does clip under. Yeah, that's quite tight, that. Get these connectors back on. 2-way, 3-way, should be another little 2-way. And then a 6-way or something, and a 5-way, I think. That's from the volume control, went in there. Oh, I've got to put that power, I'm going to put the headphone socket back in. Oh, where'd the other one go? Must be that one. Yeah, it's just feeling like it's not. And the voltage selector switch back on, so that's safely on the back panel. Not floating around everywhere with 240 volts on it. screws over here. I'll just put a screw in that headphone socket too. Not headphone socket, speaker connection. Got the headphone socket on my mind because that's the next thing I've got to put in. Definitely don't want that flapping around and potentially shorting on the chassis and blowing the amp chip again. Yep, that's on the 240 volt side where it should be. I guess I should just, even though I don't want muck on my bench, I'll just give that a quick clean. I'm going to have to probably get back in here to... Not sure how this tape deck comes off here. 1, 2, 3, 4 screws, and maybe the back's going to have to come off or something anyway. And that was upside down, or right way up, I guess, one with the unit upside down. Easy enough to unclip again anyway if I need to get it out again. Clipping it back in is going to be fun. Trying to line up where that little bit of circuit board goes. That goes there, and get the other side in the same spot. Yeah, not very easy. Could be it, that's it. Stuff going everywhere, get rid of that oscilloscope lead wherever it is. Or it's clip lead. Getting very messy around here. Okay. Turn it on, at least we've got power. Don't think anything in the power supply is blown up, so that's probably a good sign that chip's okay. Check for DC on the outputs, which we got very little, as we should. And I don't think there's any reason the speakers would be turned off. Loudness, tape selectors, Dolby, no. Don't think there's any speaker switches or anything. Just flick the power off a second and we'll hook the speakers back up. And oh yeah, that was definitely running. This one stores a little bit in a capacitor, or might be those filter caps running the power to the chip. Must be the, I reckon the power supply's got a bit of residual voltage in it. Turn the volume down. So that's the previously distorted channel. I'll just confirm that with the oscilloscope, but that sounds fine to my ears. Oscilloscope's now buried under every other thing, but I think this back chassis is actually ground. It is for the tuner or something, for phono maybe. Oh, I'm only one channel and I've got the balance to one side, so yeah, the previously distorted channel, perfect. Oh, let's just put balance in the middle. Oh, it's that outer connector. That's right, the positives are on the outer. And the other channel, spot on. So we've now just got the same nice sine wave out of each side, so as predicted. It's always worth just checking. Normally you could pretty much be 90% sure that it's going to be the amp chip for sure, but I like to get the oscilloscope and just check the inputs to the amp chip to make sure. But that has fixed our issue with distortion, so that's good. So it means I can get rid of that horrible sound. And I guess we can even try the radio or something. It's in the air, it's in my blood, it's rushing. Yeah, all the tone and loudness control seems to work alright. And that's about all I can run. I could have a quick look at the turntable, I guess. But the next sort of job is going to be getting this cassette player out. I wouldn't mind getting it out. Let's turn the power off and unplug that. Wouldn't mind getting it out for a look. I guess I can just put those off my socket there. what have we got? Got a counter belt going across to the counter. So I'm going to have to take that off. And I can get to the bottom screws. Would be better using the extra long screwdriver. I think I set this back to its proper mode. I'm going to have to open the door. Most tapes actually got to open the door before you can get the mech out, because the little hook that holds the door shut is basically holding the door shut, so you can't get it out. We can take these, and that's why these are so loose, because these plastic bits aren't really attached. I wonder if a stubby screwdriver I can get that loose. The other option is to... it's not real easy to work on. I guess if we took this power board with the power switch off there, yeah, might have to take the headphone socket again and the power board. We could take, and these screws, we could sort of take the back off and the power section off. It's probably how it's designed to be worked on. So I'll try a little stubby screwdriver in there. Now I've definitely got it out of the power, because I'm going to be putting my hands right next to all the power connectors, and it's got a heap near the power switch, a heap of bare metal sticking out everywhere. Where the power cord looks like it comes in and joins on, and power transformer. So I can definitely get one side, but the other side's going to be a bit of a task, I think, to get out. I better keep these screws separate, because it's got longer screws on the tape deck than for the other stuff. If I can just lift that up a bit, would even work. I don't think that's going to work in a hurry though, because we're on the other connectors here. Oh, come on. I've got the weight of the power transformer fighting me. I think what I have to do is at least take the screws out of these connectors, so we're not putting any force on them, but of course it looks like it's got some little clips there. Probably should have got rid of that FM antenna, I guess, but it'll do for now. Having it hanging off the back. So there's shorter screws. Annoying having a power transformer that wants to pull it down, and okay, the wires are mostly a bit too short, but that may be enough. I probably should have undone the upper screw while I had the amp out of it. Would have actually made more sense. You can just get it in there, I think, but there's not really enough room to turn it unless I go from the bottom side. What is holding this in place? It's not that, not that. It is either the headphone socket or it's the power connections. I've got some horrible noises here. It would be nice if I can just work that screw out, which I think I can just get to it. Nah, not with that screwdriver. So it looks like I'm going to have to do it the hard way. I think I have to take that headphone socket back out. Does this whole side come off? That's the other question, is what holds these sides on? I don't see any screws. Oh, they do just slot out by the look of it. That's what we kind of want. Ah, so that's... once it's off camera. Ah, you... So yeah, you can get this whole side piece to just slot out of the front panel. This is, well, I can't move it enough to show it, I don't think. Oh, there it is. It's got the power switch and power cord and stuff on there, so at least that comes up with the transformer. So I'm sort of lifting this up. But yeah, I can now actually get much better access to the headphone socket to get the clips off that. So that makes life a bit easier. So if I take the headphone socket as well, Still not much fun to work on. Yeah, I might have to take this back, get this other end off a bit. And I don't know why they put clips on these sockets. That's the silliest thing ever, really. Maybe just to hold it together while they assembled it or something, but most manufacturers, you just have screws and that's it, which is plenty. They're very tight, and they got clips to make them even tighter, which is a really annoying design. I never was a fan of working on these shelf systems. Actually, there is one screw still in there I better get. That doesn't help. And the RCA sockets come out alright, but this, the antenna for the tuner, oh, yeah, that earth one's going through, just like the speaker terminal, very tight. I almost want to just cut those clips off and get rid of them. Oh, now it's going. Oh, man. So now we're getting a bit of room. Okay, we can basically lift this whole section up. Ah, yeah, because the other problem is there's a hell of a lot of wiring on this tape deck. But now I can get a screwdriver easily in. It's just a pain because you've got all these loose things and there's a chance of ripping cables off and unplugging things and half unplugging things. Okay, tape deck should be free. Oh, door. Press the eject button and it near fell out the back. As soon as I did that. Yeah, oh wow, there's some other... What on earth have they got on the other side here? There's some weird... Oh, that must be the slow ejector mechanism. Yeah, so, oh, this is like a socket, long arm that goes into that, into a sort of socket. Probably got like a little plunger thing. Yeah. Okay, there's our counter belt. I think the easiest way might be just to unplug all of this, but I can't believe how many plugs it's got. One big one, one little one. Oh, it's not as bad as it looks, but still there's about 5 of them. Hopefully they're all different so they can't be plugged in to the wrong hole. One hand trying to hold this heavy transformer up. I don't think any part of the transformer is plugged in, so that's really annoying. At least I'll be able to get in and clean everything, and possibly the grease on that door may need a little bit of... I think it did start coming right once it got used a bit. You've got to be super careful with these power switches, you don't break the shaft on them, because they do break easily and they've got the knob bit sticking out. So I'm going to have to dispose of this main unit, what's left of it. Oh, the other end's completely come off. So just taking the weight. Oh, this is really horrible. Just have to stick that somewhere else. Oh, we've got that plunger's fallen off now. So I'll just stick that plunger into this little plunger hole there for now to keep it safe. I just hope I remember that it needs to be put back on. I think I better take this and give it a clean, my god. That's some serious dust on this thing. Pinch roller definitely, yeah, pinch roller needs a good clean. Head's a little dirty. The race head's actually got quite a bit of muck on it. Thankfully no rubber idlers in this thing. This looks like a sort of specific deck for Sansui's maybe, or something like that. So we've got this whole massive circuit board on here. So it's not an auto reverse mech, it's just a touch control one. I guess... What has it got? A metal plate under there. We're definitely going to have to remove this board to get to the screws. This should unclip. Of course, there's a heap of clips. That one, that one, that one, and 2 up the other end. Will actually just slide sideways. We can probably not even unplug that for now. Oh man, look at the dust on that pulley. It probably hasn't been used for years, but that is some dust. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4 screws by the look of it. And what I'm hoping is it doesn't all disintegrate when I remove those screws. And I've got a counter belt there I better not lose, even though it might be best to change that as well. Probably doesn't matter so much with the counter belt. They normally don't have much to turn, so it doesn't really matter even if they're a bit slippy. But given the age of the unit these days, it's best to change everything. So this has got the wires hooked into it. Of course, I spot that now and didn't spot it before. It may not matter anyway. Yeah, quite a bit of dust in there. I might take that off and clean it. So it's a flat belt. That's something you don't see that often, but yeah, look how, if I hold that pulley, that just slips. It's a wonder it really turns, but if I put the slightest bit of touch on there, it's just gonna slip. So we need a new one of them. I can't remember the last time I did a tape deck with a flat belt in it. That was what the early ones used to have, but then they largely disappeared, so maybe Sansui's still clinging to the older way of doing it. I'll give that pulley a good clean on the back of the capstan there. Spins beautifully. Don't think we need to worry about lubing this. Everything looks pretty good besides the dust. I'll give the motor pulley a clean as well. It is actually reasonably clean in here, besides just some of these bits that the dust could get into. I've got a separate direct drive reel motor there. So it's quite a fancy deck really for a shelf system. So 2 motor deck. Not your normal things. So the main motor, we've got the solenoid of course, which sets the that's activated by the touch controls, and we should be winding the deck up into play, and then it should stop. Oh, actually that keeps going, does it? Back out of play. Basically got these gears, and they've got a couple of places where the teeth are missing, and that's run by the capstan. Has it got a washer on it? It does. It is a little dirty on the other side, so I might just watch this little washer on the other side of the capstan. Oh, is it an actual? Yeah, it's just a washer, I think. So this tooth part on the capstan, which is obviously run by the motor and the belt, just watch, there's another little washer there. That basically turns. You can see there's a whole lot of gaps in this, the outer part of that, and when you press this, you should push the gear enough that it turns slightly, which engages with that tooth part there, gear, and it'll do a rotation, basically lifting the pinch roller on the heads up, and then it should hit a dead spot normally, which we are in about that position. There's actually a crack in the capstan plastic there. Oh, that doesn't matter because it's got a little metal bushing in it, so that'll lift up. And then yeah, if you turn it more, it'll just release and collapse back down, back into the stop mode, and be ready for another flick of that solenoid. All these sort of electronic touch control type, or logic controlled, or whatever they call them, decks, basically the same principle. And I think a lot of car cassette players are the same, because they've got to have the heads out of the way, and there's no way to directly. I think some of the early ones were mechanically controlled, but most of them are logic control because of the way the deck's on an angle to the tape going in, so you can't necessarily push straight down on the buttons and push the heads up. So they often used to use a similar system. Might as well put a slight bit of oil on that while I've got it out. And just give that a little bit of a lube. I don't think there was any really grease. There is some grease on these other bits here. I better just check, I guess, that it is actually looks wet. Yeah, that's fine. But yeah, there is a bit of a crack in this plastic housing for the capstan bushing, But that was already running fine. Where'd I put that plastic thing? I just had it there, now I've lost sight of it. There it is. Put that back in place. And yeah, give the heads a clean and stuff. It's definitely, that's rubbish. That one's got oil on it, so chuck that out as well. Much easier to clean it while it's apart like this. There's a bit of muck on the side of that head there that's not the best. And it's coming off. The race head's got muck all over it, so they've had a bad tape in here at some stage. So I've got everything cleaned up on here, cleaned all the heads, pinch rollers like new again, cleaned the capstan in case I've got any oil on that. So I'm just taking this back bit out. It's got a little greasy patch there for the back of the capstan, so I'll be careful not to get the brush on that and just get this dust out of it. So next problem is finding some belts. So I guess I can actually put that back. I might even put that now. I'll put the belt in and then put that back, and then I'll clip those leads back in if I can. Yeah, I can disconnect them if need be. Let's see if I've got one. That's going to be the next problem. And I can't remember, is that like an 80, 100? I get a feeling it's something like that. I never used to replace many of these flat belts because there wasn't a lot of call for them in the end. Yeah, it is going to be around an 80 because that's a 90. Oh, is that a 90? That's a 90. Damn, always nice when you got them in stock, but I don't. And I've got an 85 and nothing to 40. Because that is quite a long belt for a square section. And I reckon we're getting close. That's probably identical. See if it, oh yeah, it's about the exact size. I'd almost go on a bit less, but what's, I don't think I have one less than that anyway. So that one may well do the job. Just to put a new one in there. So I might have to check these eBay belts. Whew, that's damn close. I think we want to be a little bit smaller though. That one I think may even be slightly bigger. It's very, very close. I guess the best test is to put it on there. Okay, this belt did fit, so I might just measure it and see what length it actually is. I don't actually have the chart here to convert it to diameter, but if I at least get the length, I can do that after. So we're looking at probably about 122. So we double that, we get 244. So that's somewhere around the 240 length. Guess we can see what the old one was like as well. Probably should be a little bit longer. So you just basically fold them flat. Oh yeah, that was quite a bit longer by the look of it. That's 128 pretty much. So 256 is that? This doesn't seem to stretch too far. It's a little short, but I would call that about right. Might be just a little bit short, probably ideally slightly longer, but I think that'll be alright. And I guess I should check these other belts. Are they the same size? It'd be nice if they did make them all the same size. They look to be... Oh, that was the, I think that was the belt I actually found a new one for. That's why they're the same size, but it's almost a similar diameter to the other one as well. It's not far off, if not the same. Let's see what the ruler says. So again, with the square belt, just squeeze them at each end to get the length of one side and double that. And then you can look up in a chart somewhere from Wagner or somewhere the actual diameter it goes. So this is coming up, yeah, about 123. It's a 246, so pretty much the same size. Guess I'll check what my replacement is, just out of interest. Get that right on the end of the ruler there, and get that end about the same, 122 or 244. So within a mil or two of the other one, so that's perfect. And I think I went over, did I actually get around to cleaning this deck? Yeah, I did by the look of it. I think I went over this. It's been like a week or more since I last looked at this. Just haven't had time to do it. But I better get this thing back together while I can still remember how. Or hopefully remember how. There's a little bit of grease. What have we got there? Is that just a little tab thing? Grease is still good. That does feel ever so slightly sticky, so to be safe I think I'll get rid of that and put some new grease in there. Never hurts with these things. Yeah, it's just like a little, is it a little metal piece stuck in the plastic maybe? I guess that would make sense, it would be that. And I'll chuck a bit more black grease on there. Just sits on the top of the capstan. I guess I should wipe the old grease off that as well. Put a little, doesn't want much, but a little blob on there. And I guess to be safe we'll get rid of the old grease. Put a bit of fresh stuff on there. At least I know that's new then. Now I probably should go back and watch the video I did before to work out how to put this back together, but it can't be too hard to work it out. I guess we've got a few screws that hold that together. Get this grease gone, which would be these 4 screws right next to it. And looks like the screwdrivers have all disappeared. Oh, here we go. So there's a screw there. Oh, now the next thing that I've forgotten is, where does the counterbelt go? Did it run off one of the reels? Probably did. There's nothing on the back here, so I think that's alright. That is the problem. I should always try and finish the thing on the same day, but not always practical to do that. Really not a good idea to leave tape decks in pieces for like a week or so, especially if you don't do them all the time. I guess I've done enough of them, I should be able to remember how to put it back together. Because sometimes you have to pull things apart, order parts, and you never put them 100% back together. I take it the other screw goes in there. Must do. There's something in there to screw into. And then this board I think clipped in here somewhere. Looks like it. Oh yeah, well there's some nice holes and stuff to conveniently make it obvious where it goes. Now, I don't think we have a, this is all logic controlled I think, so there's no record playback switch to realign with a lever on the deck or anything. But always pays to be aware that there could be, why doesn't that want to go on there? That bit doesn't seem to want to come through. Ah, there we go, it's just a bit tight. And what was the story? Something, oh yeah, something fell off here, didn't it? That was, I can still remember that, which is a good sign. I think, yeah, we just had to put a belt somewhere on there. Looks like I have to bring the main unit back over, which is, I really want to get that thing out of my way because I can't really move it around easily because it's in a million bits. Put those old belts to one side. So the counter belt must come off the take up reel, one on the right looking at the front with the heads on the bottom. And I guess I've somehow got to jiggle that in. Usually you've got to just keep some tension on them with your fingers or the like until you can get the deck roughly in place. Now I've got this problem, this eject mechanism has to somehow slot in. Get all that wiring out of the way. Headphone socket. Having this back panel on here is a real pain. I wonder if I can I disconnect more of that and I've got the power trims for you. Maybe I can remove this whole amp. I don't like having too many plugs out at once if possible, but yeah, that's the key. I should have done that. Okay, now we're talking. So I've just got it down to the front panel and this end circuit board. You probably could unplug the end circuit board as well if you really wanted to, but I don't particularly want to. So I've got to get this door bit in to its little socket, and I've got to get the counterbelt on. The only real way of doing that is basically flip the counterbelt around the reel. Of course it wants to hook on every other thing in here, and you kind of got to pull that up to one end, hold it with your fingers, sort of stretched, and we've got to try and get this. Of course we don't never have enough hands in this job, so I'll try and hold that while I reinsert, and I've got this damn plug wants to get in the way. Go away! Of all the places to want to be. Now we shove this little socket thing for the slow release. I've still got tension on the belt, and now there's other plugs in the way and wires, of course. I did let the tension off then. I'm not sure that was a good thing to do, but I think it's still on the reel. Let's have a look. I should lift the deck up a bit. Yeah, that's still on the pulley, so just make sure that's on the pulley and not slipped off onto the reel or something. So that's basically ready to screw back in. Where did that connector go? Maybe there. I hope they didn't make any of the same size plugs. I might even plug a few of these back in. Just get them out because they're in the way anyway. Oh, see, that one's the same. Yeah, this is what I really hate, when some of the plugs are the same length. Seemingly. Is that the same length as that, you buggers? So where did that plug into? That is really annoying. There must be another plug here, so I can't even see another plug. Oh, up here is it? Or maybe that one. See, this is where they're real mongrels. Yeah, that one must have gone up there, I think, because at least this one won't reach up there. I don't think that it won't, so it must have gone here. Yeah, that's a good way to stuff things up if you get plugs around the wrong way or anything. No labels on them. And did I say there's another little two? See, now we've got all these two-way wires. Now, did that one go there? I would say it probably did. Got one, I think that was the amplifier. They should all be the amplifier. I probably should have tied them up together a bit better. And hopefully I can test this. I'd prefer to actually get this thing going and test it, especially with these logic control decks. Make sure nothing else is broken or anything. Now it seemed to, when I just manually wound it, it seemed to be working alright, but there's nothing like having an actual belt so the motor can power it and you can go through the operations of the mech properly. I guess I can mount this thing upside down maybe and see. When we power it up, the tape deck shouldn't really do anything. The capstan should run, but so we've got the capstan here, and yeah, nothing engaged at the moment. So capstan's running. Yeah, I can't eject it upside down unless I lift it with my finger. Now there should be one of these switches, I think, to tape in. Maybe, is that a switch? Maybe not. They're just a couple of bars. If I hit play, oh, making a fair bit of noise there. Although that seems to be running a bit fast. It's almost like the take-up reel is in fast forward for some reason. Well, that's fast forward, that's a lot faster. Play, stop. I guess the only real way to test it is put a tape in that I don't care about too much and see what it does to it. Ooh, it stopped. Oh, there was a bit of looseness in the tape, that might have been what it was. And the counter's operating. Tape seems to be running. guess the next step is flip this around the right way, hook some speakers up, and see if it all still goes. Ooh, the eject doesn't seem to release with the tape in there, so that could be another issue. That sometimes was the case. I think that was the one I put the old... Oh, where's the commercial tape? I put the tape off the Grundig thing in there, I think. Let's try that AM stereo tape. Still no audio. Dolby off.
Stereo AM presents new creative opportunities to program managers and
this must automatically switch. Oop, we're turned off.
A national marketing and educational program is currently informing listeners about their new opportunity to hear their favorite AM radio station in stereo. Controlled and perpetuated by Stereo AM.
We're missing a channel.
Promotional body by the majority of Australian radio stations licensed to operate on the AM band. The campaign involves extensive
Oh no, they're both gone.
A colourful leaflet has been produced, and some 20,000 copies of this cassette.
Quite a bit of hiss this. I'm not sure this automatically switches from radio to tape by the look of it.
Have been sent to community leaders, business houses,
Seems to be a bit of bleed through from the FM. Whoa! It just randomly went fast forward on me.
Break the stick. AM capability are now available. The range is...
So maybe we've got something dicky with the switches.
Listen to the AM band, now have the opportunity to do so in stereo.
So I'll have to take this and pull it to bits, possibly, but I'll at least have a look, see if I can see. Normally the door spring should be on one of these pivot points. What can I see there? I don't think that is. I think it's just a bit of dirt. Yeah, it's just something. I thought that was like a little silver end of a spring you can often see. So it's possible someone's messed something up on this. I guess the other thing is, should I pop this logic board thing off with the buttons on it? Because it looks like it just unclips. Although the clips don't seem to want to move, so that's maybe not the case. So there's a couple on the other side. Or maybe the bottom ones aren't movable clips. They're just there to lock into. And then again, we've got a screw here. Might be related to something to do with it. Now we can push the board down a bit. Yeah, that is coming out. Because given the amount of dust in this unit, what I would like to do is feel the buttons if they're... because these buttons will fail. And if you press on them, the springiness has gone out of them, because the little spring mix failed in it, and the contacts are basically touching, almost touching, or the little press button parts pushing down on the contacts. And the other thing, I'll just check any dry joints or anything. All looks okay. I'll check the actual mechanical buttons themselves. They seem to spring back alright, because the plastic hinges they're on will wear down with time. There is a bit of muck and dust in there, so I might just clean that out. Almost looks like it had a dead insect, or don't think that's our problem, but you never know. And that's the problem with these old units. We don't know how many years this tape deck's been broken, when it was last used. So you can sometimes get all these little annoying problems just because of things like that. The button's not been used for a long time, and that just adds to the original problem. I think they're in the right spot. Try and get these other little clips back on. Yeah, 2, 3 of them. All the buttons feel like they press in at a reasonable distance and come spring back again are okay. So now I'm left with the problem of, is how does this door operate? Is the spring still? That got a whole lot of dust out of there. Something's making a weird creaking noise. That is, maybe there is something wrong with it. I mean, it doesn't seem to have a lot of force on it, that's for sure. Or is it? Wouldn't be in this mechanism. Sure, this slow eject. Well, one way, I think what I might do is I'll pull that slow eject thing back out of its little, if I can, out of its little slot. Oh, the door's just loose without that. There is no spring in this, I don't think. So what's it relying on? Gravity, maybe? Well, it can't rely on gravity for all of it. So there's no spring. That's why I can't see one, because there isn't one. I don't think they ever put a spring, so I'm starting to wonder whether a spring is missing off this or something. I don't think they ever put one in the slow eject mech. That should just be a suction thing, greasy sort of viscous grease to slow it down when the spring does operate. When the door wants to fall, but there's nothing really pushing it, which may not be enough to get, so as soon as you put a tape in it, it stops falling. This is going to be annoying, I think. So it falls forward a little bit. And until the tape comes off the reel, it stops. So I don't know whether this door's been pushed out of position a bit. One end sticks out a bit more than it should. Can I take the front of it? A lot of these doors will slide up and come off. I don't think this is one of them though. Oh, it is, maybe. Is that the... You can usually see on the ends of them. Yeah, it's definitely one that comes off. Although, what do we got here? That's something to stop it. It does look... Oh, okay, yeah, okay. This has got little tabs on it. You've got to put your finger down, press a couple of little tabs, pushing towards the front, and then this front of this door. Oh, something's just fallen out of it. So I've taken the door off. So this has got little, probably easier to see now, this little tab thing here. You press that in. It's got a little cutout there. You can see little semicircle things. So there's a little piece that meshes into. So you've got to press that, and the same on the other end. Same little tab, push them both towards the front and slide it up. I've just got this spring thing come out of it, which I think is something to do to press onto the tape or something. I'm not even sure, to be honest. That might be something to do with trying to push itself open. I like getting these out because then it's a chance to get a brush down in there and clean out the inevitable dust that's fallen in there over the years. And this probably wants a good clean at some point. I might even clean down in the inside, but where did that spring come from? Because it's got a couple of little holes like it presses into something, but what does it press into? I've seen these springs before, but no idea where. Like in a tape deck somewhere, but it's just a piece down. Here we go. We've got one on the other side. It's down inside the door here. So that just needs to go back in and be pressed, get the soldering iron going and just melt those little pieces back in. But I don't think that's just to hold the tape sort of in the slot a bit better. I think that one's broken off as well, or starting to break off. So that's possible. Yeah, that top one's not the best on that one. It's possible that's not holding the tape in the right place, but I don't think that'd affect the eject. And you've got the little spring on top there. Yeah, I don't think I've ever seen... I knew I recognised them from somewhere. I probably have seen one off one before because it looks familiar, but it's a pretty rare thing to come off. Yeah, I think they just sort of push it when the tape's in place. It just pushes it, helps push it into the reels and in position right. But I'm still none the wiser as to Yes, it's this, when you can see this bit here, when it finally seems tighter on that one than the other one, unless it's just this cassette. I doubt it though. Once it slides off that reel, the door uses gravity to keep coming down. Yeah, it seems to have trouble sliding up that reel. I mean, I'm assuming it's that. It may not even be that, but it's definitely what goes click is when it gets to the top of that reel. If I can get that in there without the door, get it in behind the door, see if there's anything weird going on, but I can't imagine that reel's doing anything particularly strange unless it sits up too far. Like I say, sometimes they're bent to the side. Feels rock solid, so I don't think that's our issue. So this is going to be a bit of a pain if I've got to try and work out why. Because I mean, that is going to hold the tape basically. There's going to be a bit of friction there, so normally you need a bit of a spring to, as soon as you hit eject, there should be a spring to force this door off that. Yeah, as soon as it gets towards the end of that reel, it just pops on its own upwards. So that crack noise is this tape springing onto the door. Is there anything that can make that looser? Yes, if I hold the tape in place, it doesn't spring back and hit the mech. I mean, it's kind of odd that it springs back. But that may be just due to these springs being gone. That's probably why it springs back and hits the case there. Now the question is, can I really... Is there enough plastic to melt these back into place very well? It's a very dubious way of doing it really, because there's only a thin layer of plastic on these little posts at the best of times. Now, does it matter which way around? This case seems to have two different size holes on it. So it's not surprising it came off. And the problem is, once they melted it once, the whole post is kind of gone. All I can do is try and squirt some more plastic up from below without melting the other bit. Sort of poke your soldering iron tip down into the plastic below. Well, that'll hold, but I don't know for how long. Still flicks a bit when it gets to the top there. I don't know if those bottom springs are meant to push, because when the door's in, not really push on that door, they do push a bit, which you'd think would help the tape eject a bit, but you've got to push it down further to get that to happen anyway. Yeah, I'm not sure about that. It may make some difference, it probably won't though. I guess the only way is to get gravity back on our side here and... No, not going to work. Oh, I've disconnected the thing. Oh no, didn't I put that back on? Yeah, I have put it back on, I think, because it's moving. So now it's not even working as well as it was, I don't think. That's ironic. Yeah, I'll put the device back in, but it doesn't work very well. Oh, it's because I know why, probably because we haven't got the weight of this on there. So that's what a crazy design this is. I might just clean a bit of the dust out there with the cotton bud. So maybe I just need to add some weights to this thing. Oh, there's a dead moth or something there. That's such a crazy design that it actually uses the weight of the door to help eject the door. I'm guessing, I reckon I'm gonna, why did that not go on properly? Just gonna push this in a bit, that should slot on. I bet the other side hasn't at the same time. As it is, there it is. Yeah, it definitely opens better when, with more speed, when you've got the plastic bit on the front. So we're kind of back to square one basically. It's getting that to pop off the... It has no problem falling the rest of the way. I did think it was rather slow, but you never know with these things. Oh, is there a little... What's that thing? Oh, a couple of holes in the front there for some reason, but I don't think they're related. And that just lifts the lever, so it's relying on everything else to get it off afterwards. So that's a bit annoying, because now you can spend another hour trying to work out how this thing's meant to operate. Let's just fire it up again and make sure the mechanism seems to work, as in the logic controls and everything. Oh, yeah, a bit slow to operate. The play didn't want to work then. Well, it's working now. Did stop a few times, so I'm not sure why. The counter is running, so it's not something on the... I don't think this has a sensor on the counter anyway, by the look of it. But none of the reel or anything stopped working, so it was... Could be the switch. I mean, that's another point, I guess. It could be the switch that detects the tapes in. That could be a bit dicky. All good. Is that it? Did it stop? Well, of course the motors keep running, don't they? I was expecting something to go clunk or something, but I think that's detected the end of the tape alright. So no light to indicate fast forward or rewind, just an LED for the other functions. Pause, record, and play. I didn't try pause. Ooh, it goes into fast forward when I pause it. What the hell? Ooh. What on earth? Oh no, that's pause. Take pause off, we've got play. Oh, it flashes for a second and goes into fast forward. Yeah, now so the pause button's either dicky or... So maybe the more I use it, the more it'll start working again. It would blink and then the thing would go into fast forward. So again, these buttons almost want some contact cleaner in them, I think. And the rewind worked and then didn't do anything. Just may have other issues. Okay. You know, hit rewind, I can hear something click and nothing happens. And again. And again. Oh, that's because it's fully rewound. Why did fast forward not operate then? Yeah, maybe that was user error. Namely me. Play. Oops, see, play came on and then stopped. And again. And then it's gone in a rewind. So it's got issues. Now it's playing fine. Pause is operated. And gone off again. I wonder if it's that spring on the top of the deck. Well, that's meant to push it down onto the head, I think. Could that be catching more than it should? That is a possibility. I don't really want to mess with it, but I'll bend that up out of the way a bit more. I'm going to push it up. Yeah, I can now. I can easily bend it just to wherever I want it. Let's see. That seems to have made the difference. Yeah. Still not 100% perfect, but let's power it up and just get the reels to move around and stuff. And no, it's at the end, so no wonder it won't rewind or fast forward if it's at the end of the tape. Nearly. Yeah, sometimes it works. Let's put it in play, stop, eject works. Is that spring actually even touching the tape now? I think I've bent it right out of the way. So that's just the spring. I don't know if you can see it down right near the reel motor down there. Yeah, you can see that silver bit right at the tip of my finger sort of thing, even though I'm not touching it. So I've bent that silver bit right up out of the way, and I've got the power off. So if I bend that back a bit, that's just meant to sort of push the tape back down. It's just possible either me messing with it or someone else messing with it has caused that to put too much pressure, downward pressure on the tape. Very hard to tell if it's actually touching anything now. Probably have to take this door off again. The door front off again. Yeah, that's definitely too far out of the way because it's not touching. Yeah, a bit of a gap there, but yeah, of course with the front on here it doesn't really want to eject. So I need to press that back down a little bit more. Now that I've bent it really doesn't want to go back into its old position. Oh yeah, that's just touching on the tape now. So I have to put this door front on and see if it still ejects or not. So something there just is slightly out by the feel of it. It doesn't take much of these things, that's why they're a real pain to work out usually. I know I've done stuff like this before and it can be pretty difficult to work out why the thing seems it's touching the tape and it's just coming open. Just nearly. Still catching a little bit, but let's try a different tape. Well, if I hold the eject button longer, that's weird though, because the eject button, if I press it quickly, that's very odd. Oh, yeah, because it's probably touching back down on the... Because if I press it and let go, it comes back down and probably touches this lever. So I reckon leaving that little lever, because it is kind of rough, that plastic. I'm going to put a little bit of that polyglide grease on there. I wouldn't be surprised if that's all it needs, just to remove that little bit of friction there. I doubt that was lubed originally, but it may have been. You never know that the... Where are we? Up under there. And the problem is these things get worn over time and they get rough. They change their shape slightly. There's all sorts of stuff in these old machines that can just... Yeah, even if I just tap that now, it seems to... it's catching it in there. Just got to hold it long enough, I think. So it might be my... Because I'm thinking you just click it and that's all you got to do. If you hold it a little bit, because it does, the door does come kind of down to hit your finger. But yeah, if you hold that, they're fiddly little things. But if I hold that in, yeah, it's fine. Or hold it in for at least a little bit longer than I was. It just takes a little bit of time for that to... So it's... I think that little metal bit at the top was pressing down too hard, that makes sense. That probably creates more friction with the reel as well as friction on the tape, top of the tape case itself on its own. It still doesn't fit quite perfect, but it may have always been a bit out. I think it's mainly just me not pressing it long enough. You kind of got to hold it, press and hold it a little while. It's almost like it doesn't. Oh, we're at the end. That won't help. Now just try to get it to go into play and stuff if you're at the end of the tape. Yeah, I think you just got to hold it a bit longer and it operates fine. So the owner probably knew that, but I don't, because it's new to me. Yeah, if you just give it a really quick flick, but it's certainly coming out better than it was. Won't hurt to have a bit of lube on that. The fact that plastic is going a bit rough means it doesn't have to put a little bit of grease on there to stop it doing that. Now I'm going to have to give, well, I probably should give all these pots a squirt. There's quite a bit of dust down in there, so I better get some of that dust out of this thing, I guess. I haven't got as far as checking the pots in the front there. Get all the dust off them and we'll give them some switch cleaner lubricant, which is something you normally do with a lot of this gear if there's any sign of scratchiness in volume controls or anything. It's got a hole in the top, so hopefully I can squirt it down. Yeah, I can see it come out the bottom of the pot. That's a good sign. Won't hurt to do the balance and everything else while I'm at it. Oops. Balance, bass and treble, whatever they are. Give them a good turn on the front here. And I'll just have to see if that logic control problem is still there or not. Yeah, hit fast forward it just a little bit and stops. Yeah, interesting. You press it again, it stops fast forwarding. Which might explain why these buttons, if the contacts in are a bit dicky, might explain why it stops and starts. Or is it just me not pressing it right? See, that went. Hit rewind twice doesn't stop it. Yeah, now it doesn't stop and start, so something's dicky. Anyway, I'll get back to this on a later date. I finally got back onto this Sansui shelf system, and I've been running it in the background with the tape running, and if I jam this cable tie under the stop button, it doesn't seem to stop. But if I take that back out again, not long after you start the tape, it seems to stop. And I was having a problem where I pressed the pause button and it was going into fast forward. I'm not 100% sure it's something to do with these buttons. The switches all looked alright. It feels like you have to press fairly hard to activate them, but it's not impossible. There's something weird going on with them. Either that or something on the board, so I might just change all the switches, or at least the fast forward and stop ones, maybe all of them, just as a bit of, well, maybe not so much precaution, but just to get those things, eliminate them out of my thoughts, because it's really got to be something to do with the microprocessor or those switches that's causing it to change modes. I don't think there's anything on the actual mechanical side or anything that makes this tape deck think it needs to change modes. I guess one thing I haven't tested is whether it stops if it doesn't get like pulses from the counter or something, but I don't think the counter has any sort of electronic connection. It's just a basic mechanical counter. I don't think there's anything on the decks. There's nothing to tell it that the deck stopped turning. It's not some sort of feature like that. So I think I'll get this board back out again and just have a look. I have tried tapping on it and all the rest for dry joints. Didn't show any signs. There's no way you can really do it. You just leave the thing running and it'll just randomly stop. But with that cable tie jammed in there, it goes right to the end of the tape. The only reason it stops is because it gets to the very end. So I guess another thing I could look at is how does it detect the end of the tape, but I assume that's a mechanical thing rather than an electronic one. And this board was a bit of a hassle to get out last time. I think yeah, it's just very tight on those bottom clips for some reason. But it's certainly one of the things I can look at. Like I have had these little switches where the contact's in them, the little rubber piece that sort of springs them back up, or I think it might be a little metal piece inside. Some of them, the earlier ones, had a rubber piece around them and that would fail. I actually had a Sony TV that if you tapped on the case it would change channels randomly. But it actually had the buttons sitting on some West German made one in a really slimline case. And the buttons were pointing upwards. And then you'd pull the board out, sit it on the side of the TV, bang the hell out of it. Couldn't get it to play up. It's like, what the hell's going on? Put it back in the case. But it turned out it was just a rubber worn out on the quite a tool button, different to these style. But they are definitely a possibility. That's actually got a little, is that a grain of wheat light bulb there? Oh, I wonder if that's for the counter. Huh. I think I just discovered a piece in this I never knew it had. There's actually a little grain of wheat light globe incandescent lamp with one of those little rubber blue little things over it to give it a greeny blue light. But that's actually meant to light the tape counter up, so that probably hasn't been working for years. I don't think it was running since I've had it. Now I don't think there's anything else in this tape deck. Ooh, what do we got there? That's just a solenoid. What other connections are there? There are. No, that goes off to the main board. So there's wires to the erase head, to the play head, to the solenoid. Are there any other? Well, of course that solenoid goes on some board around the back here. So there's some little, oh, that goes to that connector directly, does it? Seems to be some little circuit board there with that connection on it. The heads go to this board. Might have to take the top off and just double check that there is no way this thing's sensing. Well, I don't know why it would go into fast forward is the other thing. If that is the case, why on earth would the thing go into fast forward when I'm pressing the pause button? I can't think of any reason to have an auto fast forward function in a tape deck. Unless it was like a music search type thing or something in some of the sharps. Oh, that's right, there was the two switches on top of that deck, and I did try cleaning the contacts in those a bit. Oh, and the motor connection. Okay, yes, there's no actual sensors. And even if that was a tape in sensor that's playing up, which is a possibility that it stops because it thinks there's no tape in there. But even if it was that, it wouldn't create the fast forward problem. Now that connector comes across. So we've got a connector, oh yeah, those switches, so they go to the button board. And the button board itself, there's one connector that goes who knows where. And the main connections from it, which there's quite a few of them, they all come up here. Okay, so a connector, this connector on the bottom of the board here, by look at, and this one next to it. So I guess it's possible there could be some dry joints. So I think I did look on this board and it looked like, I think they're one of these soldered in boards. I may have even covered that on the video. There was a few connections that looked a bit iffy. And I resoldered them. So this is all Dolby and stuff down here. I don't know where the microprocessor in this thing is. Right up this top board here with the crystal next to it would be the one. But whether that's probably for FM. Whether it actually has a micro to control the logic in the tape deck, it probably doesn't need much. So that might just be the FM synthesizer, an LCD driver chip. It certainly comes up on this board with the FM buttons on it, and there's another connector for them across. But this actually probably has its own driver chip. I'd say yeah, there's a driver chip under the display by the look of it. Can't see it 100%, but the pins on the board suggest there's another chip there. I guess we could wipe the dust off. Let's see what it is. It's another Toshiba something or other. TC91378, I think it says. But whether that controls other functions, what other soft touch? We've got soft touch tape, tuning in its presets, and that's about it. Synthesized tuner. So no, hard to know that. I'll just put that top back on just to hold this case together, since it isn't very stable without all the bits in place. So one of these little kits off eBay is a handy way to get some switches and keep them in stock all the time, all the different length shafts. Hopefully they've got some of the little flat ones, they look like about the right thing, but whether they're got the same pin out is another thing. Whether I can grab one is another thing. Oops, of course you bump the bloody thing and they go on the floor everywhere. That's similar that way. Put the power off to this thing out, and about the same that way, so I reckon that is just a standard switch there. I mean, it's more likely the pause button is the actual one that's playing up, but I might change that so the pause is the second one in. Who knows? It's interesting that holding with that cable tie, holding the plastic off the stop button seems to do it. I'm not 100%, but every time I've had that in there, it hasn't stopped. And when I've taken it back out, it seems to stop on a regular basis, at least at the beginning. Often it'll stop once or something, and then the tape just keeps going to the end. So it's pretty random stuff. But at least if I could get these out of my mind as probably the most likely part, since they're mechanical and people have access to them and they get potentially worn out, I've just got to get them out of my mind, because it's a pretty weird little sort of fault really. Now where's the stop button? I think it's that second one there, is it? Yep. So yeah, record, pause, and whatever the other one is. Oh well, let's take the stop out and change it. I might even do the fast forward just to be sure, in case pushing on that other one was causing a loose contact in the fast forward or something to operate. It does seem to feel a little bit weaker, that switch. And then I'm just going to have to test run this thing again, and if it looks like it's okay, I'll give them a quote for the whole lot of the repairs. But this is why I often go to the trouble of getting things running, because especially these shelf systems always seem to have multiple problems in them. I don't know why they're more unreliable in a shelf system than in separate components, but it always seems to be the case. Certainly not my favourite thing to work on, but at least this is a better brand than the usual one. They sort of got so cheap and nasty, you just tell people to throw them away. It's not worth your time, and not worth their money to waste your time looking at the things half of them. Unless it's a little Sony or something, it's just not worth the bother. At least the Sony ones could usually be fixed, usually CD problems in them, which are easy enough to fix most of the time. Or simple faults in some of them, like, you know, replacing the lamp behind the LCD display or something. But some of the sharps and stuff, you had to pull all the back off the unit to get a big board off the front just to change the light globe in it. Silliest thing ever, and they all blew all the time as well. So I might just power this up quickly and see if we get that little light to work. I doubt the person who owns it even remembers that it had one there, but where's the power switch on this thing? I'm not going to be able to guess it, am I? That's on the other side, isn't it? Oh, there it is. Yeah, no sign of a light there. Now, which one was... I don't think I've got a tape in there anymore. How can I leave that there without shorting anything out? The door doesn't like to open upside down. Old Julio back in there. I think that's facing the right way. Soon find out, I guess. And that was stop. Is that play? No, that's play. Sorry, that's the stop one. That was fast forward, that's right. Yeah, all I can do is run it and hope it keeps going. I guess while I'm in here, I'll measure that lamp. Probably be DC in this thing. I don't think they'd have a AC winding just for that. It's probably a 6 volter or something. Is that it there? Yep. Just being careful there's no live 240 volt stuff anywhere. Ooh, I'm not measuring anything. Try AC, I guess. Oh my god, it is running off AC. I didn't think that would be the case, but there you go. That's saying 16 volts, so I assume that's a 12 volt. Once you pull the current down, although the lamp's not going to pull an awful lot of current. Well, at least that tape's running at the moment. Oh, that's play, that's stop. Rewind. Don't know what the button does. Who knows? No other sign that these buttons are bent in or anything, or sometimes the little hinge bits break. I guess I'll just take that off. Then we'll see if we can get that little blue condom thing off it. Oh, is it a little? Yeah, it's a little rubber. You just got to be careful because often they've been so hot, and not in this case I don't think, but often they've been so hot they'll just rip. That's got it. Tiny little lamp. I mean, that's literally a grain of wheat, that one. It's not just a figure of speech. It's actually what it is. Very similar to the ones they use in car stereos on the front panels. Which is, oh yeah, that goes straight in there almost. Felt rather tight on that other globe, but sometimes they stick to the glass a bit, is why. Try and sort of pinch the globe between your fingernails and get that little bugger to slide on. Probably should do it like a condom and roll it up and then roll it back on. Might have to, I think. Can we roll it back up? So hard to get your hands even on the thing. Oh, might be able to. I am worried about tearing it though, because they will rip easily. Yeah, real little mongrel of a thing these are. Can't really roll it up, I don't think, so I don't know if I can risk holding that with a pair of pliers. Unfortunately, I've only got the leads to hold it by, which is the last thing you want to be touching, because you're going to break them off fairly easily. This one I don't think is going to go right down to the bottom of the globe anyway, but I've already twisted all the leads up by the look of it. It's getting there. Very slowly, but here we go. Now we've probably got trapped air in there. That's as good as that gets. I think it may let a little bit of, yeah, I think that's reached the incandescent light out. Yellowy light, so it might not be perfect, but I guess all we can do is put it in there and fire it up and see if we get dropped down to 12 volts or not. I don't think they made them in anything higher than a 12 volt lamp. Normally maybe 24 volts for some situations or something, but not in the normal ones you'd buy as a spare part. But there's always some, oh, I didn't desolder that, did I? I just melted it and took it off. Might be able to just poke those holes open. Yeah, that'll do. Get one in and can't get the other one in. There we go. Oh, worth a try. And where's my flow cutter's gone now? Okay, so let's just, quite bright. But if that's running via a resistor or something, that should pull it down to that voltage, but if not, who knows? Come on. Which pin is it? That one and that one. There we go, 10 volts. So maybe that one pulls a little bit more current than the original. But I'm happy with that, it's not over voltage, so it should last. And it shouldn't run too hot or anything. Okie dokie. Might have to put the bottom back on the thing, because all I can really do now is test run the thing. But at least that's ready to be running the back of it again. Yeah, now we've got a little light up counter there now. Not that obvious, but there is a green glow in there. Kind of a bit different. And you can actually see a little bit of yellow on that angle, but the normal angle people look at, they're not going to see it. But I'll give that a run, see how it goes. And I can just leave that in the background. If you're not listening to any music or anything, you just have that in the background and you can just hear the tape. When it stops, you just hear the same sort of sound as when you press the stop button. And if it still does it, I've got no idea what it is. So I really hope that fixes it. But time will tell on that.